This is Cornstalks and Sports Talk, your go-to Iowa-based sports show, hosted by the one and only Elliot Clough.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Missouri Valley Conference Men's Basketball Media Day was held last week in St. Louis. While I was unable to attend, Harry Schroeder of Valley Hoops Insider made it down there, and he is kind enough to join us today here on Cornstalks and Sports Talk. Harry, we appreciate you hopping on. First things first, biggest takeaways from MVC Media Day last week? Anything in particular you learned that may have surprised you or influences the way you look at this coming regular season? Anything like that?
Well, Elliot, thanks for having me. I think a couple of things, actually. The league's going to be wide open, right? I mean, more wide open than any time we've seen in a while. And I think, honestly, one of the biggest things I took away from was that there's a lot of players in this league that we think are pretty good, and they're not going to be playing as much as they used to. And so I think the league's actually going to be a lot. I thought it's going to be wide open, but maybe diminished. I think it's going to be wide open and pretty stinking talented. So I'm very excited about the upcoming season.
So with it being wide open, who are those top teams that you think are going to be vying for a title? Because there's always going to be a group up there, right?
Sure, absolutely. Clearly the Drake Bulldogs are going to be one of those teams that people are going to be talking about. I think Southern, maybe Bradley are going to be the teams that people are talking about because they have people back. There's a whole lot of unknown at Murray State, a whole lot of unknown, at a number of places. But I think Murray's going to be in contention. Obviously, Drake with all those guys coming back, DJ and Roman and Tucker and Garrett and Brody. I mean, there's just a lot of guys coming back, right? And Darren has proven to be a great coach. Southern's got everybody back, and they added Juwan Newton and a couple of other pieces. So they're going to be really good. Bradley has, I think, 9 guys back, including Jashawn Henry, who sat out the back 2/3 last season. With that back injury. So I think Bradley's going to be really good. And they signed 2 really outstanding junior college point guards that's going to really shore up what was a struggle for them. So I think those are the 3 teams that everybody's going to say they're going to be right there at the top. And I'm working on my preseason prognostications right now and haven't finalized them, but those 3 will be right there.
And one thing that I have definitely taken away from your article when you put together about the incoming class, Sardar Calhoun is going to be part of Drake too. And that's one thing to definitely take into consideration coming from Texas Tech, from Florida State.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's one of, I'll make up this number, but about 5 or 6 guys coming into the league that were highly rated, went to a big school, barely played, and now they've transferred to the Valley. And it's going to be really interesting to see how those players transition. If they're as good as maybe their high school resumes, look out. The league's going to be awesome. If they, if they didn't play for a reason, right, then you wonder. But that's why I think that there's going to be enough talent in the league that it could be really an outstanding Missouri Valley Conference season.
So one team we haven't talked about here, the UNI Panthers, them in particular, from Media Day, anything in particular that you heard from Coach Jake or any of the guys that stood out to you about this incoming season?
Well, he's obviously very high on Nate Heisey and Bone Bourne and their system that they run. The biggest question mark for them is whether or not Austin Fife's going to be truly available. And I would say 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, it was all kind of systems go, but they still have a test. I want to say it's this week or next week where he's going back to Mayo to find out what they think. And I think his availability is the $64,000 question surrounding the Panthers. If he's healthy and can give them 15 or 20 minutes a game, they're going to be a contender. If he's not, I think they're going to struggle.
I was the one who initially reported that Fife was going to be back and healthy, and some of those things, some of those issues that he's run into over the last few months, obviously that's been put into question again. That was a big thing that I took away from Coach Jake that he told you. Obviously, I retweeted your conversation with him and listened very intently. And I'm right there with you. I mean, with AJ Green obviously gone, with Noah Carter gone. That and obviously Tywan Pickford and then Trey Burhow too. There's a lot of pieces that were integral to this team last season that are just gone. They're just not on the roster anymore. And Fife, I mean, it's the intangibles too, right? I mean, I'm sure you've had a few conversations with Austin. Great kid. I'm a big Austin Fife fan. And what he brings to the table, not just on the court, but in the locker room, is massive too.
Yeah, totally. And I do think that his encouragement and his coaching of some of those younger post players has been invaluable in this offseason. And Coach Jake's very high on some of those younger guys that haven't played a ton, but they've got different pieces, different parts of what they can provide. And so I think Betts and others, some of those guys are going to grow, and they're going to have to grow into their role, even if Fife plays 15 or 20 minutes a game.
One of those big guys that I'm thinking of is Cole Henry, who started a few games last year, is awesome on offense. I love seeing the way he distributes the ball. At least once per broadcast, when we see a fun pass from him, they mention that he played quarterback in high school.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's the defense for Cole Henry. I think that if he makes that leap, if he really gets in the film room and works on that side of the ball, that's going to be really important for him and the UNI defense and the team as a whole for sure too.
I think so too. And of course, as you know, Elliot, better than most, you got the best coach in the league in Ben Jacobson. And so they're going to be good. It's just how far up the ladder can they go if Austin isn't playing? And it'll be interesting. They lost so much. They lost more than maybe anybody in the league other than Missouri State, who just reloaded. I mean, they just brought in 12 new guys that are all really good. So it's going to be a very interesting season, particularly with the 3 new teams and a lot of the hallmark players being gone.
So what's the impact you see coming in from these 3 new teams in the Missouri Valley Conference, Murray State, Belmont, UIC being added to the league? Not necessarily, let's not look at it long-term just quite yet, but this year in specifics, 2022, 2023, you mentioned Drake is pretty much the favorite, league wide right now. I would agree with that. I talked about them a few months ago, or I think towards the end of the season here on Corn Stalks and Sports Talk. But what do you think the impact is from Murray State, Belmont, UIC in 2022, 2023? Do you see the possibility of it being a 2-bid league being increased this season? Where are you at with that?
Well, I think 2 bids would be a thing that we would hope for, right, as Valley fans. I don't think you see 3 teams coming out of the Valley except for when it's a very exceptional year. Listen, Murray, you had to rebuild their entire roster. They had 1 scholarship basic player coming back, and so they've done it. I mean, they've brought in all kinds of 3- and 4-star guys that have big credentials and all that. How they mesh, how they play defense. Steve Brome's a terrific coach. They're going to be good. How good, is the question. But they're not going to roll over. Belmont is Belmont, and they just win games. And Casey Alexander's a great coach. He said to me the other day, and he said it to me a couple of times now. He said, "We came into this league 1 year too late. They had 4 all-conference guys in their lineup graduate." And with graduate degrees. I mean, they've been there for a long time. And so they're in a little bit of a reshaping. But Belmont, they know how to win. That winning culture is a big deal. So I think Belmont and Murray will be upper half. I really do in the league. And if not right there knocking at the door. UIC is going to struggle. Their best player transferred the day classes started or something like that. Jamaria Franklin. He was an all-conference guy in the Horizon and really a terrific player. But they lost him. And so on the fly, that's going to be tough to replace. They've got some pieces, though. They brought in some good players. It's going to be interesting. I had a good time getting to know a couple of their players that were there at the media day. And Luke Yaklich is going to do a good job there long term. I think they're going to struggle year one.
I'd be right there with you. I think Murray State is the biggest question mark going into the season. Like you mentioned, all those talented guys, but can they mesh in a quick period of time? To be frank, I don't think it's a 2-bid league this season. I think, like I mentioned, we were putting off that long-term conversation, but long-term, I think it will be. But this season, I think it's just going to be whoever comes out of the league. Would you agree with that?
Well, we got to play the season, right?
Touche. Yeah, right.
As they play, they're knocking off people, and but I think, I think that's a legit point though that you make, Elliot. That you don't look at these rosters and say, "Oh, they're ready to go knock off a couple of Big Ten teams this year," but they could, right? And if that happens, and if like Calhoun, for example, if he's really an upper level guy, then Drake's a world beater then with everybody else that's coming back. Southern could really be a beast, and they could knock some people off the way they play defense. And they, like I said, they have everybody back. I think you could see some teams that really could emerge, but we're going to have to see them do it on the floor.
And again, shifting to that long-term focus for UIC, they're going to struggle, like you said. I don't think they're necessarily going to compete for maybe even the top half of the league this year. But I think, I know retaining that Chicago market in the MVC was a focus, and there is a bevy of talent in the Chicago market. I think UIC moving to the Missouri Valley Conference was strategic, not only for the MVC, but for them too. And to have that, the recruiting grounds of Chicago right in their backyard, I think that's huge. I mean, like you said, not this year, but I really think they could go on to compete. And I mean, they have beautiful facilities there too.
And Coach Yak is a guy that people just love to talk to and hang out with. And he's told me a couple of times now that people talk to him now that didn't talk to him before because it says MVC behind his school instead of Horizon. So he's going to get to talk to people that he didn't get used to talk to, and he's going to sign those players. He's a terrific recruiter. He's proven that he can do it as an assistant at the highest levels at Texas and Michigan. And of course, when he was at Illinois State, they were wildly successful as well. So, I look for them long term to be pretty good. And Murray's always good. Belmont's always good. Those are going to be programs that in the years to come are going to be really outstanding Missouri Valley Conference programs. And listen, when you come to Arch Madness in St. Louis in March, there's going to be 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 Murray State fans here. They're going to come to St. Louis. They packed out the Evansville place. They were 60, 70, 80% of the fans in that 9,000 seat auditorium for the OVC championships. They're going to make the Enterprise Center CFSB Center West. I could learn all those letters.
And so we talked a lot about some of these new teams coming in, mostly players, obviously Steve Prohm and you just mentioned UIC head coach, but there's also a few other new faces in terms of coaching. Ryan Peden coming in, David Ragland from Evansville. Thoughts there? Did you get to talk to him much at the media day? Looks like you did. What were your impressions of these new faces?
Yeah, well, I've talked to both of them before that, and then at the media day as well. Ryan Peden is so impressive. Of course, he's been with Chris Holtman for a long time at big schools and at Ohio State, and he's going to do a great job. They brought in 4 or 5 Division I guys, transfers, and so I think they're going to be legit this year. And I think long term they're going to be really good. His players seem to really resonate with what he's doing, what he's building. Really like him. Dave Ragland has energy out, this oozing out his pores, and he comes again from a Butler background, and he's going to do a terrific job there. I think the proof's in the pudding. But like what he's done, like the coaching staff he put together, Marcus Wilson and Craig Snow, who were all Valley guys there at Evansville, and have coached other places. They're bringing kind of legacy back, like pride in the program back, and I'm campaigning for the short sleeve shirts to come back, and Coach Rags tells me it's on the way, but they haven't been able to make it happen yet. So I think they're going to, again, we talk long term, right? I don't think Evansville's going to be very good this year. But Coach Ragland and his guys, they're going to be building something there significant. And I think Illinois State's going to surprise some people this year. They brought in a lot of quality, maybe 3 different double-digit Division I scoring transfers. And so along with Luke Kasubke, who didn't do all that much at K-State, but was there and has played a long time at the Division I level. So I think they're going to have some players, and he's a proven guy in knowing how to put together systems. I think those were both like home run hires for both programs. And I was a big Dan Muller fan, still consider Dan a friend. Didn't want to see him go, but I thought they landed a great one at Illinois State. And Coach Peden and Coach Muller are good friends, and they converse often about what's going on there at Illinois State.
I tell you what, you would know a lot better than I in regards to these two. But as far as Peden goes, everything that I've seen, interviews, stuff like that, he just seems like he's the down to a T, the guy that Illinois State needed and wanted for that matter. And then Ragland is the shot of adrenaline that the Evansville program needed, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I think right on both points, Elliot. You know, you know what's going on in those different markets, and you talked about Coach Yak at UIC and Coach Peden at Illinois State's doing the same thing. Man, they are beating the Northern Mid Illinois Bush, and they're getting players to come and look. And of course, you know, Redbird Arena might be the best arena in the league. It's one of the top 2 or 3 for sure. So they've got great facilities, a terrific fan base. And so if he can kind of get that back on the arc upwards, and Bradley, I think, is going to be really good. You can all of a sudden see the war on 74 taking on a greater magnitude as well.
Definitely. And that's good for everybody in the MVC. Yeah, that absolutely. It is. Back to you and I a little bit. I saw your article on the 2022 recruiting class. You and I ranked dead last in the MVC. Defend it. Tell me.
Well, they recruited one guy. I mean, there was one guy. So listen, he might be really good, young man out of Cedar Falls there, but one guy. I mean, like, I don't know. I think that's kind of that's a layup right there. What do you mean? We defend it. He might be amazing. And they did have those 3 red shirts that, you know, so they didn't have to go build a big class, right? I mean, you build a big class when you need a lot of people. So I just think the fact that they only brought in one person was really the issue. But he's obviously supposed to be outstanding and all of that. They just didn't have the room on their roster to bring in a big recruiting class. But yeah, I think the fact that it's a person I think it's an easy defense.
Well, you look at Agapek, sorry, too.
Yeah, right. He came in later, but yes.
Right. Yeah. And have you been able to watch much of him? Any thoughts there on Pexari? No.
No, I mean, obviously his international numbers look good. His reputation is good. And he could be that guy, you know, in the shadows that we don't know much about. And then you're from Renee, you're going to say, Harry, you're an idiot. And I would wear it, right? You know?
Yeah. He's flashy, man. I got to watch a little bit of his play for Turkey and then some of him in practice. And I'm really excited. He's eyes in the back of his head kind of point guard. Defense might be lacking a little bit, but we'll see. And Coach Jake will get him up to par there. My initial thoughts on the article too is you said the one in Trey Campbell, and I'm really excited about Trey. I think he has MVC Freshman of the Year type of talent, but no transfers, and they were looking in the portal. Is that a big reason why you had them towards the bottom there too?
Well, again, the numbers are one thing, and Campbell, I think. In your neck of the woods, people think he's amazing, and he might really, really be good nationally. He didn't get a lot of kind of run as being a highly sought after guy. So that, and I don't think Jake's going to look at a lot of transfers. I mean, in talking to him, I think he's willing, right? You know, because everybody has to be, but he likes to build a certain way. You know, Casey Alexander's the same way. He said, we're going to bring in transfers when we have to, but we're going to keep doing what we've always done. We're going to bring in high school players. We're going to develop them. Now, whether or not teams can do that because it's so easy for those players to leave is really the big question mark now. Because, yes, that's a great way to do it, but not if they leave you after their sophomore year every year. And so that's, I think, the big dilemma right now. So, yeah, I mean, nobody proven coming in, right? I mean, you know, like you said, you've got the Turkish player and the local guy, and they both have some good resume stuff. But two guys and nobody proven, and it's difficult. Like, had they brought in a thumper 4 or 5 guy, right, from some program in case Austin wasn't ready, well, then all of a sudden it all changes. But
Right.
like I said, there's no bigger fan of Ben Jacobson's than me. And but I just thought the class was lacking a little bit, and somebody's got to be 10th.
Right.
Well, 12th, I guess now.
Right. There were a couple guys in the portal that Coach Jake was going after. A big man from Dayton that ended up at North Texas, and a D2 kid that ended up at Colgate. And then Pexari ended up committing. So that filled a void. You mentioned Hunter Jacobson in the article too, coming in as a walk-on. He won't be able to play, obviously, because of the injuries. But then Charlie Miller, I'm not sure if you're familiar there. Charlie Miller coming in, grandson of Eldon Miller. I think that's super cool that he's being brought in.
I love that story, and I was sad to hear about Jake's son because we talked about it last week at the media day. But I love the Charlie Miller story. Like, how fun, I think that's an amazing thing. So, and frankly, I love that about UNI. There's a whole lot of players that have family ties long term to the school, and I was talking about Coach Ragland coaching at Evansville and bringing in 2 former Purple Aces. I think those kind of things matter. You start to build tradition. You start to build familiarity and a family feel. Now, it's not new for Jake. They've been doing it a long time, but I'm saying I love that about what they do there at UNI.
Hashtag family. Every single tweet the coach puts out. Now let's shift a little bit more to bigger picture for you, Harry, before we let you go. Any coaches entering this season on the hot seat? Any at all that you see?
That's a great question. Let me go through my brain. I'm going alphabetically. No. I think the big question, maybe the biggest, let me rephrase. I think 2 big questions, actually. Matt Loddick hasn't been tremendously successful at Valpo. And they lost, their big center again. They lost arguably their second or third best player to transfer again for the 3rd straight year. They haven't been able to hold on to players. So I think that's a question mark, right, for Valpo, if you're looking for a likely somebody. And this one will surprise you. I love Dana Ford, and I think he, does an amazing recruiting job. Year after year, they're ranked pretty high, and I don't want to say they underperform, but they don't go to the tournament. They haven't been to the tournament since 1999. And so if there are 2 guys that you think, man, they should be doing something more, and I like both of those guys, like them both personally, and I appreciate the way they go about what they do. But if you were looking to, you're trying to squint your eyes and come up with a person that might be risky, I think Matt Loddick would be the most, and I think Dana would be in that sense of, okay, you've gotten us this far, but we need somebody to take us to the next level, not because he's not doing a good job. It's that proverbial thing, and sometimes you make a mistake when you make that move because the guy's got you to that level because he's doing a good job.
Right. I'd agree with you there. I don't think there are any other folks on the hot seat either because of new hires or continued success. Loddick, man, that's a tough loss with Kithier, man. That just put a dent in what he's trying to do this season for sure. And then of course you mentioned Dana Ford, who, it's definitely one of those scenarios where they're going to compete for a title this year and then just short.
So it'll be interesting. He had to reload almost completely as well, which was pretty surprising to me. I mean, some of his former players went with his former coach to the new location and all of that. But, man, having to really reload, and he's an amazing recruiter. I mean, they are loaded with talent.
Right. Any under the radar guys you see could maybe win some awards or be earn a spot on MVC first, second teams this season going into the year?
I guess the guy that intrigues me is at Indiana State is Macaulay, Cavassier Macaulay, if I'm saying his first name right. He was at Lincoln Memorial with Josh Schertz at the Division II level, and then he transferred to DePaul and was their 6th or 7th man at DePaul last year. And now he has come back to Coach Schertz at Indiana State. And Coach Schertz is unabashed. He thinks he's going to be their leading scorer. And, they've got 2 guys that averaged 15 a game last year on the roster currently. And so it's interesting to me that you bring a guy in like that and he has those kind of expectations from him. They signed Jason Kent from Bradley, and I thought, okay, he's going to start, be sixth man. And the word I'm hearing is he's going to struggle to find minutes, which means Indiana State's a lot better than they were a year ago. And I think McCauley is one of the key guys in that mix. And I do think at Murray, I'm really looking forward to seeing Braxton Stacker. He's a freshman from here in St. Louis, and I'm really interested in watching and seeing how much of an opportunity he gets to play there. He's really talented. He's about a 6'5", 6'6" guard, so it'll be interesting to see the kind of time he gets as well. And this isn't under the radar, but is Marcus Damask going to be that guy this year? He's battled some injuries, and he's had some, 2 out of really 3 good seasons, but an injury in between. And love to see him become kind of that, I don't know, that real dominant player. But they got so many outstanding wing guard kind of people at Southern. Maybe he won't get the ball quite as much. And so it's going to be interesting. I think there are some guys like that. Ben Cricky is an interesting guy to me. By the way, we were talking about Valpo. Kobe King has lost like 15 or 20 pounds and looks electric to me right now. And so he might be a guy that jumps up and we see something different out of him as well.
I'll tell you what I know is the UNI roster, and I'm looking at Titan Anderson to be the most improved player of the year.
I talked to him at the media day. Really impressive guy. First time I've really talked to him. Really enjoyed him. Really liked him. Bowen and Nate as well. Talked to both of those guys at the media day. Impressive guys. And I think that 3 or 4, the guard out, the 4 out, right? They're going to be good. And but what do they do when they have to get something inside? But Titans, I asked him about that. I said, "You're kind of this explosive, crazy guy." He said, "Yep, that's what I bring." Yeah. And I love that. Every team needs that guy or somebody that can play that role. And so I am with you. I expect big things out of him this year.
Last thing for you before we let you go, Harry. Do you watch any Valley football? Or are you all basketball?
No, I root. I root, right? I don't even watch Oklahoma. I mean, I'm not a college football guy. And so it's not that it's Valley football, it's that I don't pay attention to a lot of college football. But some big wins it's the best, whatever the letters are, conference in America.
The Missouri Valley Football, the MVFC is the SEC of the FCS.
Those letters. Yeah. And I don't know if you do this because I look at the scores, right? And so if you go to ESPN, you want to pull down the scores, it says that FCS thing, and then it says AA. Remember it used to be called AA. Yeah. And I still think of it as that way. But the Valley Conference is stunningly great. I mean, Southern's had some big wins. Missouri State, just had that big battle with South Dakota State last weekend, and Valpo's winning games, and it's an unbelievable league. And Patty Viverito, the commissioner, I've got such great respect for her and what the whole league has done. But I just don't watch a lot of college football to begin with.
You know how I can tell? Valpo's not in the MVFC.
Well, they're in the Pioneer League or something like that, right?
I don't know.
But I know that. But somebody was tweeting out about a Missouri Valley team getting wins and talking about Valpo. So I'm just affiliation because Indiana State plays in the Pioneer as well.
So you say, Harry.
Seriously, I'm aware. I just don't watch it.
Just checking. Hey, if anybody asks you, Woo Governor from UNI, he had 2 pick sixes in one game this weekend. That's the first.
Woo Governor.
Yes. Yeah. If he has one more, then he's going to have the UNI single season record for 3 in a season. So that's your talking point this week.
Listen, you talk about names. Bradley's got James Pop Weathers and Duke Dean. Those are the 2 junior college transfer. They got the best names. Think about Pop and Duke playing in your backcourt. That's a winning combination right there.
I love it. He is Harry Schroeder at Father Harry. It's Father Harry 1. Yes, at Father Harry 1 on Twitter. All your MVFC basketball news that you could want and talking points and all that. Harry, we appreciate you joining, man.
Always fun to hang out with you, Elliot. We'll see you soon.